Why is the mic not working? It is now, but like, why wasn't it working? Why? Why wasn't it working? Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated. Looking at things flashing and wondering, is this loud enough? Is this too loud? Who knows? These are questions that nobody can answer. Nobody knows the answers to these questions. Where are we now? We're in game version Castle, or Castile, or Castile. The Pope has been patched in as the head of Insular Christianity. We saw a bit of that on Twitch when I streamed there a couple of weeks back, when the Faith of Iberia thing dropped, or whatever. And, yeah, Habemus Papam, and he's utterly useless. Pope has been patched in as the head of Insular Christianity. And he doesn't do anything. So, yeah, there you go. Thanks for joining me on this episode. I hope you had fun. I had great fun. Make sure to check the links below. What I'm doing today is I'm looking at the Tip Volume 2 mod. I did a series in that a while back. A Munster series. So Manded, or Pede Noir, or Concerned Citizen, and something else, I forget what his other username is, made some changes in Ireland. And yeah, every once in a while, take a look and see what's going on. So he left a message on one of the videos there recently that he had updated Tip Volume 2 again. He has two mods that we're kind of concerned with. Tip Volume 2 and Improved Insular Christianity. He's left the Pope in Improved Insular Christianity. He doesn't have the Pope in Tip Volume 2, which is what we're going to look at today. So we might as well take a look. It's actually unusual not having the rags to riches as the default. I wonder if we can set it as the default. Where are we going to start? Do you know, I haven't played an 867 in a while. I haven't played in 867 in a while. So we'll see what's going on there. Okay. So one of the things, of course, that he did was cut out a ton of new counties long before, what would you call them? Split up Connacht, before Paradox itself split up Connacht, when it was just a single county at one stage. And that is actually a more accurate-ish Breffni. It's as accurate as you can get it to be. Is there a terrain map at this level? So I know one of the things that he's done is he's added the Wetlander tradition for Ireland now. And just look at how important that's going to be if you're playing in Munster, if you're playing in Connacht, if you're playing in Meath, because all these blue areas are bog. I find it very confusing because I keep thinking these brown areas are bog, and I keep thinking that's not too bad. There isn't actually all that many areas that are bog, and then you remember, wait, no, these are the bogs. Who are we going to play as? I don't think it makes much of a difference. It's a more interesting layout. Oh wow, Leinster is actually... Leinster just looks huge for some reason. I don't know why. That's actually another thing that the vanilla game did, is that they sorted out the they had the McCarthys were being described as the wrong family, and they sorted those out. He's put in Men did put in the Dalgosh as well for people who want to play as the Dalgosh early on. So you have the Dalfiathach ruling the Dalfiathach, but you have the Colbod ruling the Dalnaradi. And then you have various branches of the Northern, you could probably split those out into the, how would you call them? The Kinloan and the Kilconnell. Bua, how are you keeping? Long time no see, good sir. How are you keeping? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Like I said, great to see you still making the videos. So this is it's below in the description. It's a mod called Tip Volume 2. So I made some videos, and I've kept making videos on Insular Christianity, and so somebody took some of those videos and they made changes based on them, and he split up the counties. Have you been playing CK3 recently? But he split the counties out even more. So Connacht, I think when you were playing in Poland, Connacht was a single county. But now this guy has split it out into 4. It has been split up into 2 since then. Mr. Joker, how are you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. The Dalgosh, so Brian Bruce family, have been put in County Clare. This is the 867 start. And you have Munster split up a bit more. Where are the big changes? I think most of the big changes have occurred in Connacht and around kind of... So he added... Oh yeah, he split up Alloch into Tyrone and Tyrconnell. And he split up Ulla into the lands of the Dal Naradi and the Dal Fiathoch. I think those are pretty much the big changes. Desvuan was split into Desvuan and Loch Lane. And then, like I said, Connacht has been split up as well. Mr. Joker, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Glad you're enjoying the stuff. I've been working on a college project for the last while, so videos have been scarce. They've been few and far between. But hopefully now, once that all stops, we'll get back into some more action. Does anybody... First of all, how is the background volume? Hopefully it's not too loud, but does anybody have a preference for who they would like to start as? Today I'm pretty much just taking a look at what the mod looks like. But does anybody have a preference for a... what part of Ireland we should look at? And while you're thinking of that, if somebody wants to drop a name... I don't know if we can look at the religions. We can't. Not just yet. Oh, we can. There we go. Okay. So he does have the Pope in, somehow. We'll talk about that in a second. The volume is good. Excellent. That's the most important thing. And they have his birth name as well, Martin. He was born Martin and took the name Nicholas. You'll have to keep up the videos were good old fun. There's a mod, I don't know if you've seen it, Bua. There's a mod on where when you start a battle in CK3, it takes you into Bannerlord. So it loads up, it looks at the composition of the two armies, and then loads that up in Bannerlord, so you fight the battle in Bannerlord. So the duchies are the same as they've always been, pretty much. So Connacht is the exact same, Munster is the exact same, Ulster is the exact same. Leinster has pushed up a bit into Meath, so I think most of this is pretty much where the only couple of changes have taken place. I think one barony has maybe... Oh, that barony was part of Breffni. So he chopped up Breffni a bit, because Breffni looks mad in this. Ray O'Brien says to start in Desmond. We might as well. Ray, how are you keeping? And make it the real capital. I think Munster is the exact same as in vanilla, so you'll hear me saying that a lot, the base game, or the vanilla game. Leinster has taken a chunk. Yeah, because I think it was literally just Leinster and Ossory is what made up Leinster. It was indeed, because it's a two barony, or it's a two county province in the base game. So they've added in Kildare, basically. So Dublin is a lot bigger. Dublin only has 2 baronies now, whereas in the base game it has 4. And I think it's just Dublin and Meath, Leinster and Ossory. So Leinster is made up of Leinster and Ossory, Meath is made up of Dublin and Meath, and that's it. But now some areas have been chopped up, and the baronies, the the counties, there's a lot of 2 barony counties now. Mr. Joker, it is indeed. It's the Tip Volume 2 mod. There's a link to it below in the description. So the Man Dead, Pede Noir, Concerned Citizen, he's looked at basically some of my videos and has split out areas. We had a bit of a conversation on how we'd split up on Connacht, and he wanted to add the Dalgash after my Brian Brew video, and what we're looking at is some of the changes that he's made in this mod. So we will start in Desmond. We are as Cú Congelt, Mac Alil Broa of Desmond. I'm trying to think. Cú Congelt. Where does that put us? And his heir is Crahur. So there's Dunica Mac Dovda Buirin. I was always saying Beireen. It's very difficult to get the pronunciation of these names. But, I actually forget. I saw the name written. I don't have the book anymore. Or it's in a different room. But this family basically goes on to become an important legal family in this region of the country. But Dovda Beireen, or Dovda Buirin, which I think is like something like between 2 black rocks or something like that. But I think he was king of Munster at some stage. I'm trying to find who was the actual king. I think it was King Kinfalaed, or Kinfalaed becomes king later on, is the next ruler. So Kinfalaed is one of the rulers that's in the base game. He's in the base game somewhere as well. Who do they have in Leinster? They have the Kinchalik. And we have Ivar. And there's Carul MacDunlana. I know some of these people. Right, Desmond, we'll actually get going. We'll actually get going and get something done. So it's predominantly to just look at what the changes that were made look like. We are the Onuk Rahlan. The spirit of the unicorn grants us prosperity, a famous Irish saying. Very, very true, very common Irish saying. There's the unicorn, the unicorn of Cork. It's still on the shield of Cork today. Right. Insularism. For those who haven't seen this mod before, I made some suggestions almost 2 years ago now. One of my first suggestions was to change the cross because it's confusing. So this is the cross of Kong, which Mandate put in as the symbol of Insular Christianity because it kind of stands out a bit more. I don't think I made the suggestion, but it was something that we discussed. He moved the third holy site, so it's Armagh, it's Iona, and in the base game it's Canterbury. But here he's moved it to Lindisfarne, which makes a lot more sense. What else away? So my big complaints in the base game were with pastoral isolation. And what was the other one? Vow of poverty. So he removed the 2 of those. He put in communal identity. So conversion speed in counties of my culture. Promote culture speed. I don't know about this one. I've had issues with this one. The insular faith is intrinsically linked to our people. We are bound together by God. The practice strengthens the bonds of our community, though it tends to exclude foreigners. I don't think that's a great one. I had problems with this one, and on further thought, this is absolutely perfect. This is a fantastic trait. So I'm actually probably going to do a playthrough shortly where I'm going to take advantage of syncretic folk traditions. makes humble a virtue, arrogant a sin. Characters of this fate gain additional bonus. Where's the one that I wanted? Mutual 30. Opinion bonus with unreformed fates. Unreformed fates are hostile instead of evil, and we're viewed the same way by them. Right. Divorce, always allowed. He's changed marriage type back to polygamous. We're gonna... It's a bit... Meh. Why did he say he did this? So that it's not based on the culture, so that the Irish are not culturally polygamous. That's... I don't know. We're not going into a big in-depth thing today, but it's mostly just to discuss. And if people want to see what it looks like. Divorce always allowed. Perfect. I've been calling for this for ages. Clerical function is recruitment. Members of the clergy can serve as commanders or champions. Very appropriate in the 800s. I've gone through this in some of the other videos about religious leaders, or not religious leaders, but bishops in battle. It was common. Not common, but it happened. Bishops as knights, no. Bishops as commanders, yes. Clerical gender, either. This is something Manded did based on, and I've seen a lot of people have complained about it, and I agree, Bridget of Kildare. So, your court chaplain can be a woman. And he's using the example of Bridget of Kildare, which was really the exception that made the rule, which was clerical gender should be male only. So you can end up with female court chaplains. I don't think it's appropriate. A lot of other people don't think it's appropriate, but he wants to keep it in there. Clerical marriage allowed. Yeah, clerical appointment, temporal for life. So you get to appoint your own court bishops, something that I've called for ages in the base game. I'm not too sure how this is being done. There should be a tenet that allows you to have the Pope as your head of faith. But here, the Pope is head of faith, and we don't need the tenet. This is fantastic. Because this was my big worry. I wonder, though, if he hates us. Cultural acceptance minus 14. Insularism is astray minus 5. Zealous minus 35. Who's zealous? We're zealous or he's zealous? He's zealous. That makes a lot of sense. This seems to be the type of pope that would kick in the door and start giving out to us and start telling us to change our religion. The Crusader Blade mod, is that the mod that allows you to do the battles? That'd be interesting. Would Dublin in Leinster and Kildare in Meath switch to make more sense? Let's see where the... So it's an odd one. I think Kildare in Meath... Yeah, like Meath should be basically here. That's kind of what Meath should be. So Meath should definitely be these two baronies anyway. I think what the province of Meath should be is Dublin, Meath, and Brea. So you have 3 counties in this region, and they'd have to kind of nearly make up that bit of a chunk. So it would incorporate this, and this would be split between the west is Meath and the lands of... When you're dealing with Ireland, it's not so much what counties do we represent, but what families. And what you should be trying to do is represent the Cloncolman, which would be the dominant branch of the Ineal in Meath, and the Shielnaid O'Sloina, which would be the guys in Brea. And then the Kinnell Cunnell and the Kinnell Owen. And then you have all the major branches of the Ineal represented. So that's what you should be trying to kind of do, as opposed to, counties. So that's actually a good one, Bua. As for bringing Dublin into Leinster, so definitely I agree with this. This should be in Meath. Bring Dublin into Leinster. I don't know if it makes a huge amount of difference in the 867. And that's another one of the problems, is that, like, at this point in time, or maybe a bit earlier, about 2 decades before this start date, Ossory is part of Munster. And it only becomes part of Leinster later on. It was the same with Clare. Clare was originally part of Connacht. So the game doesn't allow for that. The provinces are static. The duchies are static. So that's actually an interesting point. Bring Dublin into Leinster and leave... or put Kildare up into Meath. That's an interesting one. Every time you play in Ireland, you try and convert back to pagans. I don't know if you've seen that there is a Roman era mod. Fallen Eagle. Is it Fallen Eagle or Fallen Eagle? I keep saying Fallen Empires, which is Stellaris, but it's set in the mid-300s, so it starts you off before the arrival of St. Patrick. You can kick him right out the door. As soon as he lands in the country, you can kick him right out the door. Be having none of that. Now, this is going to be interesting. What is my favourite? Now, for this guy, we'll go with something appropriate. It's telling us intrigue. It's telling us intrigue. Ooh, we're not going to go down prowess anyway. I think... What is my favourite? I've heard that they're adding a new one, actually. I might be wrong there, but I thought I heard they were adding a new one. I tend to go martial a lot. When you're playing in Ireland, you tend to go martial a lot. I do like whole of body in learning. Whoops. I do like that. I've had some fun with intrigue. They've given us schemer. We could go down the torturer route. I do like... Is it Dark Insights? 50% chance to gain either one intrigue or one prowess whenever you torture somebody. And we will go for big, scary, intimidating Corkman. But so I think it's generally military is the one that I play the most with. I think it's either Fallen Eagle or Fallen Eagles. I think it's Fallen Eagle. So it's predominantly based on like the East and West Roman empires, but Ireland is there. And I did a series where I played as Ucca Mumadoin, so that would be Niall of the Nine Hostages' father, and he's in Connacht. The Niall is there as well. The problem is that Niall's mother is Niall's mother is the daughter of the king of Britannia. So basically, this entire region. So Niall often ends up ruling England. It's kind of weird. But they have a couple of interesting people around the map. It's not the most historically accurate, but they picked all the rulers from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia for that time period is all over the place. But no, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. Yeah, I'd definitely check that one out. If you haven't played in a while, Bua, then you've missed a lot of new stuff. Here's cultures. So each culture now has cultural traits, has a language, and has certain aesthetics, but it also has these kind of traits to it as well. So one of the things that he's done that Mandate has done is added the Wetlander cultural tradition. So we had talks about this, and I showed it there at the start, how Ireland is almost completely bog. The entire west coast is all bog. Poor old Desmond at the moment has no bog, so we'll have to come into the bogs of Kerry and the bogs of Limerick, and Clare is just bog to get advantage from the Wetlander tradition. It makes a lot of sense. There's I have it up in the Discord. There's a link to the Discord below as well. You'll see in the history section there's some videos by the Rambling Kern, and for St. Patrick's Day he dressed in 14th, 15th, 16th century clothing and went for a walk around a mountain, and he was going through a bog with no shoes on, and he was talking about some of the battles that the Irish fought at this point in time, and a lot of them were ambushes in boggy areas against heavily armoured English and Norman knights. So these knights would ride into a bog, get stuck there, and then be ambushed. So the idea that the base game has Ireland as a giant bog, but does not actually have the wetland tradition, is kind of weird. And if you look at the if we zoom out, like bog, 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 that's pretty much it. There's a couple of sparse areas, but like from space you can see bog, bog. So all Ireland is a boggy region. There's a culture down here. I actually think it's here, and they are the only culture in the base game that starts with the wetlanders tradition. Doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think. So I think this is quite appropriate. Plus, the amount of butter and the amount of bodies that we do be finding in bogs. I think that's appropriate. So you get advantage, you get a military advantage for fighting in bogs, because in the base game, you go into Connacht, your army is gone. Your army is... Connacht's army is gone. Nobody can fight in Connacht. Connacht is Mad Max territory in the base game. Refined poetry, I think this has been fixed. There was a massive problem at the start when this came out, that Ireland produced no poets. So nobody had the poetry trait, and it was an absolute debacle. Podrick, welcome in. I've now that Podrick is here, I have something here besides me, and I'll unveil that now in a second. I was waiting for a bit of a crowd. There's something big that all the Irish people will be delighted in. Strong kinship is another one that Mandate has added. So it gives us tenestry. Tenestry was removed. The Irish are no longer follow tenestry by default, and that was just a weird. That really messed up my last playthrough. I didn't enjoy it because it was just seniority, and it was just and it took a lot of prestige to try and put this in place, to put tenestry in place. It doesn't make sense not to have tenestry. So the Irish now have tenestry. The Irish have monastic communities. So you need to have, to get this trait. Does it say it? Temperate, the monk trait. Characters of this culture are more likely to accept. I thought you had to have monasticism to get that. Well, monasticism is the only way that you can make somebody a monk. Monasticism is the only way that you can make somebody a monk. So now, by adding monastic communities on top of that, and again, it's very appropriate. It makes a lot of sense. Here we are. Here's the big one. Brehon Law. So this is one that he basically created from scratch himself based on the last video that I put up. Ailing or disgraced rulers can abdicate their primary title by taking the retire to monastery decision. Very common. Lots of Irish rulers died in monasteries after retiring. On a couple of occasions, they retired to a monastery and came out of the monastery, but that would be a bit too crazy. So in CK3, if you're playing as a ruler and you have an uber excellent brilliant child and you want that child to succeed, the only thing you can do is either antagonize somebody to the point that they kill you or commit suicide. Make yourself depressed and commit suicide. The reality is that in Ireland, generally following military defeats, rulers would often abdicate. Citric Silkbeard's father did it. So he set out from Dublin. His two eldest sons attacked Tara at the battle of... They actually attacked the hill of Tara itself. It is seen by historians as an attempt by Amleve to take the High Kingship, to seize the High Kingship from... was it Moel Nail? It was from the Nail anyway. And he failed. I think at least one, if not both of his sons were killed, but after that he went into retirement. This was he had rolled the dice, they had failed, and he went into retirement. Rule in Ireland at this point in time is very much, it's not something to be held on to until you die, it's very much to build a legacy. And if you've messed that up, there's no point in going on. So I think Amleve went to Iona. So I think that's very appropriate. We have that. There's a couple of other rulers who did that as well. Rivalries are more common. Rulers can blind prisoners. Using the blind interaction on criminals, with a banishment reason or execution reason grants piety. Okay, that's an interesting one. Physically disfigured and infertile claimants cannot press their claims against rulers of this culture. So again, it would have been common in under Brehon law to... so going back into Celtic mythology, there's the legend of Lugh. I can never remember which one it is. There's Lugh and Nuada. One of them they both get their arms cut off, I think, but one of them is forced to hand over the High Kingship. And this kind of becomes a tradition. It's never enshrined in law, but it's just there's a precedent. The only time it's mentioned in the legal texts is on a book on beekeeping called Bec Breha, The Laws of Beekeeping. One of the legends, or one of the laws is that when the owner of a beehive dies, somebody has to go to the beehive and inform the bees by tying a black ribbon around the hive. That's one of the common stories. I'm not too sure if that's actually in Bec Breha itself, but pregnant women were entitled to demand honey from local beehive owners to satiate pregnancy cravings, and if you owned a hive, you had to compensate your neighbours for 5 years after you built the hive. You had to compensate your neighbours in a diminishing amount because your bees were stealing their pollen, basically. Brehon law, it's mad. But there was a story of Conal Ceach, who was blinded in one eye by a bee. A bee went in there and stung him in the eye, and he had to abdicate the High Kingship. And because blemished, or disfigured, or blinded rulers could not rule, was the kind of the tradition more so than the law. And that's been one that a lot of people have been calling for a long time in Ireland. Blind people. Rory O'Connor, who some would say was the last High King of Ireland before the Normans arrived, and then you've the Bruce claimants and all this kind of stuff. But Rory blinded a half ton of people. He was nowhere near being in line for succession to the High Kingship. He wasn't his father's favourite child or his father's preferred successor. He blinded a ton of family members. He blinded his way into power, basically. So, physically disfigured, my fear would be that that's going to discourage people from having their family members take part in battles. The vibe of an Irish playthrough is you have 12 sons, half of them die in battle, and half of what's left kill the other half fighting for power. That's basically how Irish history goes at this point in time. Anyway, Ireland has long been divided into myriad petty kingdoms, often led by rulers engaging in age-old dynastic blood feuds. Despite justice being dispensed on local terms, there is a certain harmony between the church's canon law and the local ruler's civil or Brehon law. That's actually fairly good, because he made up all this himself. That's a fairly good description. Key aspects of Brehon law include strict regulation of inheritance. Few women or blemished men may inherit, and victims being compensated by perpetrators, either with money, goods, or services rendered, which is another bizarre aspect of Brehon law. All Brehon law is civil, so all penalties or all crimes, including murder, are compensated by payments, generally in cattle. So there you go. Irish history. It's mad. The Ivruan Breffni area. So I did that. That was I did a Connacht playthrough in the Fallen Eagle mod. So I can't remember, when did I do it? There may only have been a single county at that time, or may have been 2 counties. But yeah, up in Connacht. And what I wanted to see was how many people could I kidnap. Vergast, how are you doing? Irish Kings and Nipples, that's, there you go, that's a book title, that's a stream title. The practice doesn't seem to have made it into the past maybe the 300s. We do know that the Irish definitely carried out sacrifices, that the pre-Christian Irish carried out sacrifices, but they tend to have died out before the start of the first millennia. They don't even seem to have made it into like the year zero. But you can, in the Fallen Eagle mod, you can sacrifice people. So of course the idea that the bog bodies, so we were talking about the amount of butter and bodies that are found in bogs. The bog bodies, I think QI did a video on this as well. It is often commented that many of them are found with their nipples cut off. And one of the theories is that, what would you call them? Servants would suckle on the nipple, they would kiss the nipple of the king as a sign of devotion and submission. So if you had your nipples cut off, you couldn't be the king, because nobody could suck on them nips. One of the main cornerstones of kingship in Ireland is gift giving. So you go up to somebody, you bait the living daylights out of them, and then you give them a gift. And if they accept the gift, they are accepting submission. They have submitted to you. They are basically admitting that they are in your pay, they are in your service. So there's a lot of formality, to a degree, around this kind of hostage taking and gift giving. They're the big kind of things. You see it mentioned in the annals continuously. Such and such a person went into the house of. That's one way of putting it. So if you go into the house of somebody, you are accepting submission. You are submitting to them. You are basically accepting them as your over-king, as your superior. Accepting gifts, such and such accepted gifts from, or such and such was granted gifts. So Thorluk Uvrian, when he became the King of Munster in 1063, in the late 1060s, he accepted gifts from Donncha MacMoyle the Mo, accepting Donncha as his over-king. So you could imagine that absolutely suckling on the nips of the king, being given the privilege of suckling on the king's nips, would be a way of submitting to them. But we don't have a huge amount of evidence on it. It would be a bit like the Norse in this game. They can do a blood eagle. And I think there's only 2 references of blood eagling in Norse mythology. And I forget the description a lot of people has is like the back being cut open and the ribs being broken out backwards. Whereas that doesn't seem to have actually been the case. Pseudo Nim, thank you very much for the subscription. They might just be watching a video somewhere else. I don't know if they're actually in chat. Jam Blue Jam, welcome in. You've wandered into the middle of a discussion on nips, on suckling on nips. But so CK2 CK2 and CK3 have taken the Blood Eagle. They've ran with it. You can Blood Eagle 20 people in a single battle. Maybe throw in some nips. Maybe throw in some nips for the Irish. Now that we have everyone in here, we've Padraig and we've Vergas. Look what I picked up in the shop today. And Boo will be interested in this as well. So it's Tato, but look at the flavour. Can we see the flavour? It's the fizzy cola. It's the fizzy cola Tatos. These went up on Reddit a couple of days ago. Somebody found an empty packet on the ground, and the theory was that somebody had travelled back in time, or that we had fallen into an alternate dimension, because nobody had ever heard of these things. Everyone was freaked out where they came from. But yeah, apparently they're new Tatos. Fizzy cola flavoured Tatos. On the back, Mr. Tato says, rumour has it that this might be my craziest invention yet. A crisp that tastes like a fizzy cola bottle. Check out my social media pages and share your Tato fizzy face reaction. For anybody that's not from Ireland, Tato is the main brand of crisp in Ireland. It's a what do you call it? A genericized trade name, a genericized trademark. In Ireland, we refer to all potato chips as Tatos. So, you know, if somebody's eating a box of Pringles, give us some of them potatoes. It's the same as, you know, the way people refer to vacuums as hoovers, or all sticky tape is sellotape. So tato is a genericized trade name in Ireland, in that sense. But apparently the Tato company was the first in the world to make flavored crisps. They invented the cheese and onion flavored crisp. Up until that point in time, all crisps were plain, and Mr. Tato was the one that that invented the flavored crisp. So what we'll do? There was another question there. Pseudonym, how are you doing? I wasn't sure because I've been streaming every once in a while, and there'll be a pop up, and it's like that person might actually just be watching other videos, but we'll put in that little subscription thing, just like on Twitch, the way we'd have it here. You can Blood Eagle the King of Northumbria as the Norse, don't you? You're absolutely right. Yes. So if you start off as the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, and one of the options is when you capture the King of Northumbria is you can Blood Eagle him, and I think the guys, it's in the Discord, it's in the Maniac Link Discord. I don't know if I put up his video, but there's the Medieval Irish History channel, and I did a kind of an interview with them a couple of weeks back where we were looking at CK3. I didn't realise my big head was in the way. No, my big head was in the way. For all that we've been talking about. I can't put it up there because that's where the pop-ups will be. I've no preparation done for this, just in case anybody has missed any of what we've been looking at for the last while. Brehon there's Brehon I'll just leave that up for a second. But the Medieval Irish History channel have done a video where they kind of discuss how Ivar the Boneless is not the same Ivar as the Ivar that historically ruled Dublin. So there's still debates about it. So but the CK3 have gone with the fact that yeah, he's definitely the same Ivar. It is the craziest invention. It's a bit mad. I'm going to open those up now in a second, and we'll see what they taste like. Right. We'd better do something, lads. We'd better do something. We're not married. Let's find a woman. So, of course, the other thing is that Mandate has added lots of other religions. There's the Nordic Rite. There's Catholicism. I don't know if the Hispanic Rite is one that he added himself. So, of course, we have the Faith of Iberia, which came in recently, and that did a lot more stuff in Iberia, and it added more religions. So I don't know which ones Mandate added, because Mandate did have his own Basque religion for a while. Now I don't know, is this the one that's been added by the base game, or is this his base one? And just for Bua, because I don't think Bua would have seen this, there's now royal courts. So you can have, when you become a king, before it had to be a feudal king. I think now it might be, I think you become any type of king. You get a royal court, and you get to show off. I don't think we have any kings in England, do we? Okay, so they are supposed to be there, but they just haven't appeared. They should actually be physically here. The skull cap of Charlemagne. So you can start thinking about what Irish artifacts you'd like to put in there. You can have books, you can have furniture, you can have weapons, you can have kind of statues. So you could stick in a couple of Cuchulain's mythological weapons. The Sword of Carlos actually is one, a real historical weapon that was traded. A Norse king of Dublin was captured, and one of the things the Irish demanded in return, a ton of cattle, ton of gold, and the Sword of Carlos, which was a famous Viking sword. So you could have that in the game. And there's I'm going to do an episode on that at some stage. 1 second. So there's the reliquary of the arm of St. Patrick, St. Patrick's bell. What else could we put in here? You could have the Book of Kells. There's a ton of things. We'll be doing it for ages. I think, Padraig, I put it in the... Yeah, we'd have to scroll back through it. Through the going live section, or the YouTube section. But, so we have a history channel in the Maniacal Link Discord. It's down in the description if anybody wants to join. You're more than welcome. And I'll repost that in the Maniacal Link Discord. Later on. I'm just looking around at something. There we go. Right. Okay. We'll find a woman. Actually, I do want to check one more thing. Sorry. So, the other thing he's done is he's removed polygamy totally from culture. I think that's going to have some negative impacts. I think there's going to be some negative impacts there, because what you have in the base game is a very historically accurate scenario where the Pope will actually ask you to convert away from polygamy. It will ask you to change your culture. If you're polygamous, if you're a polygamous culture and you're practicing a monogamous faith, the Pope will ask you to change, and that represents, I think, very accurately the reforms in the church, basically in the late 11th and early 12th century. So I think by removing polygamy, that causes a bit of trouble. Bua, I did not think about that. You are probably right. I don't know if you can roll back the patches. I'd have a feeling that you'd probably need the Royal Court DLC as well. You could always try. You could always just try and see what'll happen. But I have a feeling that, yeah, you're probably going to need the Royal Court DLC. That's the worst thing about all these, about the Paradox and its DLC trend, is that you can get to a stage where like after a while you can't download anything. You can't get DLC. I don't know if there's a way of like rolling back DLC and things like that. What am I looking for? I am looking for a Catholic, because I want to see if we can divorce them. And this will give us an alliance to Derby. Another thing that he did, that Bandit did, was he localized a lot of the spellings. So in the base game, that'd be a different Derby. We might see. First of all, I presume our son isn't married either. What are you actually good at? Fighting in the snow. There you go. So he is a brilliant strategist. He's actually a great military ruler. Can we find a big, strong giant of a woman? I know for an established fact that Vergast will not allow me to not marry a giant. If Vergast sees a giant, Vergast demands that we marry that giant. That's the way it works. Bogan, how are you keeping? Welcome in. We're looking at the Tip Volume 2 mod. Seeing some of the updates. We're the Unicorns of Cork. And we're going to marry our son off to a giant. Or otherwise Vergast will riot. So there was a Catholic lady. So we've no alliances. There was a Catholic lady that would bring us an alliance. Traits aren't great. Well, her, whatever you call them, those aren't great. But she'll give us an alliance in a year's time. I'm probably only just going to play for the hour. This is another problem I've spoken about this. I'm actually going to be doing a video on polygamy at some stage. And you're also in Bogan in time for the fizzy cola as well, the fizzy cola sweets. Crahur can marry. We don't have a court physician. Appoint a court physician. So this is another change, Bua, is that with the Royal Court DLC, that you can now an executioner, court musician, court poet, court jester, a cupbearer, high alamoner. So they've bought in all of those from CK2. If people see, I don't have a way of shouting. I don't think I can even comment. I don't have a way of shouting out people in this like we would on Twitch. But if anyone sees there, I've been talking about Bua. Check out his channel. Bua was making some videos on CK3 when the game came out early on. He was doing some playthroughs in Poland and is back making videos there with the last while. Hasn't made a video in a while, but hopefully we'll see him back into it. But Bannerlord, lots of Bannerlord content. And was it the GAA management game as well? Random Irish content. So do go and check out Bua as well. When you say why are they all minus 25, was that like their opinion of us or something? I wasn't watching. We've nobody who's any good, but generally. Do you know what? Yeah, because I always make my We're not endorsed by our bishop. Our bishop hates us. Antiquarians take care of your court artifacts, and another thing is you can also now have artifacts and weaponry and stuff like that on you. Okay. I actually haven't played CK3 in a while, so I'm half forgetting what to do. We have 302 levies. We're not making a huge amount of income. Let's see what our champions look like. So there we go. Our best champion is our suffragan bishop. And there's Moel Morda. 6 gold to recruit Moel Morda. Go on. That's actually a lot. Is Moel Morda any good? He's an 11. And he's going to force out a 6. Yeah, sure. Okay, so our son Krahur is in the army, and he's not wearing a helmet. And like I said, I think deposing people with blemishes is a bit too much. As Brehon Law is set up at the moment, because I don't want to see, like, the standard play in CK3 is to make sure no member of your family is in the army, whereas what I do is I make sure that they're all in the army. If anyone's watched my playthroughs, they're anarchy because very important members of the family keep getting killed in battles, which is the Irish historically accurate way to play, unfortunately. Battle of Island Bridge, 917. Was it 7 kings killed in a single battle? The High King? There was the High King, who was also the King of Alloch. There was the King of Meath. There was the King of Ulla, if I'm correct. And there was at least the King of Brea and the King of Noth. I swear there was 2 more. Maybe it was 5. There was at least 5 kings killed in a single battle. So, you know, this is commonplace in Ireland, right? Oh Jesus! How does? Oh yeah, because we're because we're useless. 1,000 men. Lads. Lads. Right. And the other unfortunate thing is that nobody starts off with daughters. This could be a short playthrough. That's right. One of Green Graffador's sons was killed in Cornwall. I'm trying to think. Was it Cuala? Because we named another son Cuala Moore, if I remember correctly. Right, we can marry more people. And we can still get alliances. So the people in Ossory hate us. Who are you? How do we have a potential alliance to Ossory through... Oh, Jesus, there's a TOS violation. How do we have potential alliances to Ossory through these people? Oh, God. We're stubborn and lazy. Let's marry this stubborn and lazy 18-year-old. That'll give us an alliance to Ossory. So that's basically how you get through the early stages of this game, is you build alliances to as many houses as possible. Who else will give us an alliance? Do you know what? That's actually appropriate. That's actually appropriate. So we had a lot of people who had alliances who were willing to become our... Oh no, never mind. I see what happened. That's actually weird. That's actually weird. So we're betrothed to this girl. She's 15. Because we're betrothed to her and we organised a marriage to somebody else, they've become our primary wife. So there's a bit of a kind of an exploit there. What you could do is you could basically organise a marriage to somebody under 16 who has an alliance, then organise a marriage to another person under 16 who has an alliance, then organise another marriage to somebody under 16 who has an alliance, then marry somebody over 16 who has an alliance. You're basically going to have 4 alliances. That's a way of doing that. There should be... Because nobody wants to be our secondary wife now. Nobody with alliances wants to be our secondary wife. But what, of course, you can do is you can hire for good stats. Is there anything we're missing in the court? Dear God, these are some of the worst courtiers I've ever seen in my life. And we can come up here, appoint a suffragan bishop, so we can actually appoint somebody as our bishop. Historically speaking, families would basically have a religious branch of the family. And certain religious titles were basically treated like semi-hereditary titles. They wouldn't necessarily have gone from father to son. There are surnames like Machon Sagarth, son of the priest, Machon Aspig, son of the bishop, and they would indicate that they were indeed hereditary titles. I've heard that Macul Isa, which is Macalis in English, meant... Now, what it means is son of the servant of Christ, son of the servant of Jesus, but it belonged to somebody who held hereditary church land, and they filled basically a hereditary position within the church. Camille, how are you doing? you think that that person was the person that we married, so this one here. Now, what her mother is a member of the Dalburn, and the woman that we married, this woman is a niece of Carúl MacDonlanna. So there is his sister. Oh, she's also married. Wait, what? No, that's different. I'm confusing myself. There we go. So there's his sister. So I think this is a character that's specially created by the maker of this mod, because legend has it that Carúl MacDonlanna's family were the first to, or were among the first to populate Iceland. And that there are actually like dynasties and kind of semi-royal families and whatnot, in aristocratic families in Iceland, that claim descent from Carúl MacDonlanna. Pseudonym, thank you very much for checking out the videos yesterday. I'm glad you're enjoying them. I find I'm always worried that people will see the old playthrough from a long time ago and think, oh, it doesn't have the royal court, it doesn't have Irish culture. I don't wanna play this. Or I don't want to watch this. Let's see what we have. We can stick together about 900. We have a lot of very powerful neighbours. Ken Falaed, strangely enough, is the weakest. He's also allied to Ossory, which is not helpful. Kubraka actually... There are no more alliances to be had. We'll see if we can take Munster. We'll do that first of all, and we'll see what way things go. Excellent. Thanks a million, Pseudo, for checking out the series. I'm glad it's still entertaining after all this time. Maybe towards the end of the year I'll do another. I don't think I want to do a 50-part series, but I might do another kind of major CK3 playthrough, and I am looking at Vicky 3 as well when that comes out. The Insular World was appalled to learn that my suffragan bishop, Gilla Eadmoin, I can never pronounce that, so that's servant of Eadmoin, which is a very common, not a common name, but Eadmoin is an early saint who gets mentioned a lot. For there's a law, coin Eadmoin, I forget what it does, but he's important. So our bishop is his servant. He's been keeping a list of all those who have ever wronged him, detailing the numerous ways he plans to get back at them and satisfy his lust for revenge. While scandals among the clergy are nothing new, it is disquieting for one to occur so close to home. Condemn him for his transgressions. Defend his character publicly. Maybe I should just stay quiet. So we gain stress because... It doesn't really tell us why we gain stress. I suppose we'd have to condemn him, or we're cynical. Oh, Insular is going down anyway. We spend 150 piety, and he'll start endorsing us. Yeah, go on. We'll defend you, you old ape. You silly old ape. Oh, jeez. Everybody's getting alliances to Ossory. Lads, if you don't have an alliance to Ossory, you are nobody. And of course, this is the thing now. This is the thing now, if I am correct. We can come to himself, and we can ask him for money. He won't accept. Mine is 119. Oh, we don't have the piety either, but we can now ask the Pope for money. So the role of the Pope in CK3 in Ireland now is a bit weird. Because of the way it's set up in the base game, I actually don't understand how we have the Pope as the head of Insular Christianity when it's not in one of the tenets. Unless he snuck it in there somewhere. Nope, not too sure. So in the base game you need to give up one of these for a special tenet. Can we see it? I think it's literally called right, isn't it? Which has confused a lot of people as well. Oh yeah, pastoral isolation would require you to have no head of faith. That's right, yeah. Oh yeah, you in the base game, the Irish can't join crusades, and they can't. Well, insular Christians can't join crusades, and they can't join. They can't become the Pope. So all the Pope does is lets you ask him for money. That's it, really. How would you go about role-playing if some lesser ruler in Ireland would randomly diverge his culture and get rid of Brehon law? The role of the Pope in CK3 is weird, full stop. You're absolutely correct. Free money every 5 years. That's, yeah. The Papa, give us out some money, and things are good. The Irish are quite strange in, like, they define this and they regard this as an entity. If you read any of, like, the annals, if you read any of the chronicles from the time, it's very clear that they have a concept of what consists the Gael, which is the Irish, and the Gaul, which is the foreigner. And they have this idea of like what is Ireland and what is not. But the idea is so vague. One of the things is the nesting theory, or this kind of Matryoshka doll style of kinship. So you would have a Thua, which is effectively a barony in... Can we find a barony? You have a Thua, which is effectively a barony in CK 2 or 3. And then you have the Overking of a couple of baronies. And then, which would make a county. Then you have the Overking of counties, which would make a province. Then you have the Overking of provinces, which would make something like the King of Tara, which would be the Overking of the Northern and Southern Inail. Theoretically, beyond that, there is the Overking of Overkings, which would make you Ordri Naharan, Ri Ulla Éireann, or Ordri Ulla Éireann. So that's the High King of Ireland, the High King of all Ireland, or the King of all Ireland. But theoretically, the Irish are then open to this idea. So somebody can rule over 2 baronies and rule a county. Somebody can rule over 2 counties and rule a province. Somebody could rule over 2 provinces and be the King of Tara. Somebody can rule over multiple overkings of provinces and be the King of Ireland. But what happens if somebody rules over one country and rules over another? And what happens if somebody rules over all of Europe? So in legends, in some of the translations, like you have the King of the Western World and the King of like ever larger entities that the Irish kind of imagine exist. It's one of the reasons why it takes the Irish a while to realise, oh no, the Norman invasion is bad. When the Irish defeat a Viking ruler around this time period, slightly earlier than we are at the moment, they send a letter to the king of Francia, West Francia, basically celebrating the victory. But there's some... The French very much took it as the Irish think we're above them. The Irish think that the King of France is their king, and they're kind of telling him how the battle went. So if somebody was to diverge, it wouldn't kind of create an immediate crisis that needs to be dealt with, if that makes sense. It's kind of it's weird. It's weird. We can't do anything sensible. And he also yells at Insularus. The Pope also yells at Insularus and demands that they stop being polygamous. That's absolutely correct. And he will give you very big penalties if you don't stop. I'm wondering, do we have enough? Oh, we can hold out another couple of months. Can we? Somebody's raiding somewhere. That might be a sign that we might be able to raid somewhere. Oh no, all the raiding armies have raised. Right. So the Dalgash have gone into Tuavuan. So what we should be able to do... raise all... here. And put them on Raiden. And we're not losing any money for having our troops raised. Now, what's the numbers looking like there? Will we... Might as well. We'll see if we can actually raid this place. Fizzy Cola, Tatoes, and, to go with it, bottle Coke. Smells like the Fizzy Cola bottles. The Fizzy Cola bottles are very popular in Ireland. We absolutely love them. Well, that's something. Now, that's something. Fizzy Sugar Tatoes. So our champion Krahur is, of course, our son. Muel Morda has wounded Kach and Fiachna. Did we actually get any... It's not oh, Lord. Lads, thank God they're limited edition because... Oh, Jesus. Right. A problem that pops up from time to time is that there's these flags in the background that... that block you from doing certain things. So I think the fact that these guys lost a battle, so the Dalgash lost a battle in Limerick and got driven back, that kind of activated a flag preventing them from being raided. So we're now in a scenario where we just can't raid this place because you can't. So we'll take our army back. We can organize a marriage, and he still accepts. Everyone's got a much bigger army than us. Oh well. Chat, remember what I said about... Damn it. God damn it anyway. He would have been a good ruler. He would have been a good ruler. And he's dead in a battle that didn't even get us any land or anything. Who's our heir now? I wasn't listening. Died from his internal injuries. Chat, why didn't you tell me not to send my son into battle? He didn't deserve this, chat. Oh, we can't disband because there's enemies around. Diarmid Macmuel the Mole. Oh, dear Christ. His son, I think it was Donica, or was it Morcarthach, was the king of Dublin. So Diarmid, Diarmid installed his son as the king of Dublin. As king of Dublin, he attacked the king of Meath and was defeated, driven back, and the king of Meath followed him and killed him. And that absolutely threw the succession in Leinster into anarchy in the 1060s. So stuff like this happens. Stuff like this happens. Who's next in line? There's hardly anyone in the family. Coitna, so it's pretty much the only other person in the family, the 7-year-old. Oh dear God, this is... Lads, his stepmother can educate him. That giant of a woman, she would have done better. For anybody that's joining in has no idea what's going on. Tato have put out fizzy cola flavored crisps, and they are... they're something. I'd say we won't be eating much more of these. Oh, lads. I don't think we can disband our army because they're there, and they can't disband their army because we're here. So there's women fighting. We can use our intrigue ability to try and get them to not be fighting. After carefully examining my wife's claim, I've reached the conclusion that she is telling the truth. Sinead has deeply insulted her honour, and in doing so, she has spit on my hospitality. So we can banish her from the kingdom. Yeah, we'd better try and make the wife not hate us. Like, if I move him in here, is there a penalty for... Yay, we can disband now. Okay. No. 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 That's the end of it. That's the end of it. Go away the rest of you. Go away. Stick to the smoky bacon and the... Oh Lord, the cheese and onion. Like, I mean, I will finish them, but I don't want to. It is an experience that is most certainly one of the ways of describing it. Is there anything we want to do before we finish up? I'm gonna divorce. I'm gonna start divorcing a chunk of the wives. We can marry the suffragan bishop of Meath. This is kind of one of the strange things now. Is like, I don't think she's a nun. We should not be able to marry nuns. But when she becomes a suffragan bishop, she takes on the nun's habit. So, like I said, this is one of the stranger things. And of course, she's in the court of Flanchina from my first playthrough. But, so this is one of the things that Mended did, is that you can have your... that women can be... I tend to treat this title more as, like, abbot than bishop, because abbots were quite important in this time period. We've seen that the Irish were heavily monastic, that monasteries served as the centre of power because there was no diocesan structure until the early 1100s, and that quite often abbots also filled the roles of bishop. So what would happen is a powerful ruler would provide the money for a monastery, and then the order that set up in the monastery would generally look to that ruler's family for abbots, for a number of different reasons. First of all, thanks for the money. Second of all, by putting a high-ranking member of the family in position as an abbot, it kind of helped them to get the protection of the ruler and the support of the ruler. So it was a kind of it was effectively a civil political position, strangely enough, this religious position in a monastery. So the ability to appoint your own abbot and things. But like I said, Manded wanted this for Bridget of Kildare. I think there was one monastery that had female abbesses. But yeah, it's kind of an unusual one. I don't think we can marry any more Catholics. That's the last thing I want to do before I finish up for the day. So like I said, if there's anything anybody wants to check, give a shout. Myself and Painting Poorly and Irish Sniper, we're on... oh god, no, I've forgotten. Playing D&D this evening on Twitch. The Bearded Tit DM's stream. So we're playing Lost Mines of Phandelver. That's at 8 o'clock. I think it's an 8 o'clock-ish start, usually. So we'll be on Twitch. Streaming that. I am Rex Inferno, a tiefling rogue who's going to be an inquisitive. So basically a detective. Painting Poorly. Podrick is a Tabaxi Warlock. A Munchkin Tabaxi Warlock. So, and Irish Sniper, who wanders around in the chats and the Discord as well, is a dwarf called Halfbeard. We've actually half forgotten the name. What's the religious fervour of Insular Christianity? It's at 42% at the moment. So the size of the faith is causing a -29 penalty. And that scandalous priest we had is causing -10. And the yearly fervour change at the moment is plus 2.47. I think it changes faster with smaller religions, doesn't it? So these guys are at 50. And their change is 0.54. These guys. So we have a pretty high. There's Insularism at 247. Apostolic is 247. Nestorianism is... I don't know if that shows up anywhere on the map. Not really. There we go. So they're much smaller again, and they're 349. Where is this? Because this just looks like a crucifix stake for killing vampires, and it does indeed. That's exactly what it seems to be out in Transylvania. part of the world. So there you go. I'm not too sure is this one put in by, like I said, Mandate has put in a few of his own, and he's put in a few of his own, and he's put in a few of his own, and then some of the ones that he put in were effectively put in later on by Paradox, so it's kind of getting confusing. And there's Adamitism, which is everyone is naked. We had trouble with the Adamites there in the last playthrough. They were causing bedlam. Let's see what we have for the... So the only one that has changed is... so it's Lindisfarne instead of Cambridge. Learning per level of devotion +1. Learning per level of devotion +1 as well for controlling Armagh. Monthly piety +5. I absolutely hate that. I hate that. County conversion speed in Britain and Ireland +30%. It's an odd one. And then of course you have Jerusalem and Rome. I think Lindisfarne makes, and if you in the code, the devs have some reason for why they didn't put Lindisfarne and they picked Cambridge instead. Cambridge hates this. That's the other thing that Mandate did, was he stretched Insular into Cornwall and Scotland. I don't think it starts in those regions in the 867 start, but like Cambridge was trying to, or Canterbury, did I say Cambridge? Canterbury was trying to exert control over the church here and bring it in line with their teachings. Canterbury was not in favour of insular practices, so having Canterbury as the other holy site is really weird. But let's see. Like, I mean, look at this. You have a county. It adjoins a county with a holy site. There's a space and then another county. So I mean, there's literally one empty county between the three holy sites. 3 of the holy sites. So you can't have that as a kind of an argument for why you didn't use Lindisfarne. Like, this is not the most concentrated grouping of holy sites. I don't know, is there any more that are just as heavily grouped, but yeah, maybe that was their reason. You know, that it would create too many grouped together, but it's not, like I said, it's not exactly the most heavily grouped together, and the reality is it's going to be very hard starting in Ireland to control all 5, because, like I said, you have to take Rome and you have to take Jerusalem. I'm finding that the most appropriate thing to do, really, and this is the other problem, I still think it makes most sense to just convert away from this, especially into the 1060s, to convert to Catholicism, and you still have polygamy as part of your culture, and you have your fights with the Pope, who's telling you stop being polygamous, bold, and that replicates historically what happened. The only thing is that if you actually want to keep it, what would we say? If you want to keep Insular Christianity and you don't want to replicate the reforms, then the Pope constantly penalizing you for not reforming is maybe a bit of a problem. But like I said, if you're into the 1060s, once you go beyond the 1160s, you're into a fantasy world as far as Ireland is concerned, because you're in with the Normans, you're in with the, like, what if you're playing this game and you hit the 1160s and the Normans haven't landed, what would have happened to the Irish? Most likely, they would have just gone fully in line with what was happening in the wider church and taken part in later crusades. But the way the Pope is set up now at the moment is kind of crazy. Manded, you've arrived. A bit too late to I would highly recommend Manded. Absolutely best things ever. Great rave review. Everyone in chat says they're fantastic. Fizzy Cola Potatoes, go and get yourself some of them. You will thoroughly enjoy them. They're fantastic. Everyone in chat love them, but you've just missed my enjoyment and my rave review of them. Before we leave, because I am heading off in a couple of seconds, how have you managed to get the Pope in here without it being a right? Fair play to you. So Mandate in chat is behind the Tip Volume 2 mod. And you might be able to answer that as well, Mandate. So Bua wants to play this. But Bua only has up to the Northern Lords only. Up to the Northern Lords DLC. So Bua doesn't have the Royal Court DLC, and he doesn't have Faith of Iberia. Is he able to play mods, or is that it? You have to be up to date. Like, is there an earlier version of the mod still available that he can play, or do you have to be up to date with everything? Bogan says they should group them together and make the bonuses less for balance. Are you saying they should group the holy sites together, is it, or they should group something else together? Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so there you go. Oh yeah, so it's just that if he doesn't have, so we're thinking also, because another one that I was talking about was the Fallen Eagles DLC, so, or the Fallen Eagles mod. So if Bua doesn't have Royal Court, he just won't be able to access the weaponry and stuff, the actual Royal Court part of it. That makes perfect sense. So there you go, Bua. From the horse's mouth, from the unicorn's mouth. You should be able to play away, but you won't have this. So there'll be just a handful of things missing, but you'll have all of these counties. We were talking about all the counties. So Bua, if you have any questions on the counties, Bua had an interesting suggestion. It's one we have to think about. Incorporating Kildare. See, that's the other thing now that we have to think about, is we have 3 counties and 3 counties, so it's nice and balanced. Instead of 2 and 3, or swapping Dublin into Leinster and Kildare into Meath. I think it's mostly the baronies that CK3 drew. They're kind of throwing things all over the place. Bogan had a question. I actually can't remember if I answered it or not, or if I even looked at it. What was the reason for Laudability, or I can never figure out how to pronounce it. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Irish Medieval History channel, they would be the guys to ask about that. They should do a video on that one. Basically, Henry II had been looking at Ireland for land for his sons for a while. When Diarmid gets kicked out of Ireland, it's pretty much Canterbury that pushes that. Canterbury is very angry. When the Irish start reforming the church in the early 1100s, there's a synod in 1101 and there's another in 1111. One of them's Cashel, one of them's Rathbrazel. I can never remember which one's which. They begin establishing the diocesan structure. They begin establishing more formal rule of the church in Ireland. Canterbury is not happy with this. The other thing Canterbury is not happy with is that Canterbury, when Viking Dublin converts to Catholicism, it begins sending its bishops to Canterbury to be bishopified. And when Dublin comes under Irish rule from the 980s onwards, but especially then into the early 1100s. First of all, the Irish recognised the Archbishop of Armagh as the primate of Ireland. And the other thing is that they begin insisting that the Archbishop be bishopified in Ireland. So basically, Canterbury gets angry that the Irish are taking control of their own religious affairs. Canterbury has always seen itself as... Canterbury has seen this region as being an entity. It's why you often hear me complaining about like British Isles and stuff like that. From a kind of an English point of view, this is a coherent entity that power structures in this region have a kind of a legitimate right to rule over. Whereas from the point of view of these people, they're doing their own thing. They're happy out. It's the reason why you have, and the same thing actually happens in England, the Archbishop of Dublin is the Archbishop of Ireland. The Archbishop of Armagh is the Archbishop of all Ireland. So basically, the Archbishop of Armagh is the primate of all Ireland, but the two of them are basically on a parallel, an equal footing. The Archbishop of Dublin is just slightly below the Archbishop of Armagh. The same, there's also the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Archbishop of York, I think, as well. And nakedhd.xyz, what? No. What will we report them for? Is it unwanted commercial content or spam? Can I report it for multiple things? No. Promotes terrorism. We'll go with the explicit material. Go on, so. I hope they've disappeared. Are they still there? No. Go way out of that. We'll be putting ideas into people's heads. This is a good Christian stream. We'll have none of that carry on here. And Bogan, there was also the fact that it was an English king. So Amanda, I put a link to the thing in the description, to the mod. So York is subordinate to Canterbury in the same way that Dublin is subordinate to Armagh, but only just barely. So as far as I know, there was a similar scenario that York... Is York the Archbishop of England and Canterbury is the Archbishop of all England? Is it something like that? But when the Normans arrived then later on, there was some argy-bargy again. And I think it was actually into the 13 or 1400s was when the actual Archbishop of Ireland, Archbishop of all Ireland scenario was created, because I can't remember, was it the Archbishop of Armagh visited Dublin and there was some argy-bargy over what gate they were met at and what flags were flown, and it was kind of crazy. So there you go, one of the English kings elevated the Bishop of York as metropolitan to compete with the growing power of the clergy in the Kingdom of England. So it's something vaguely similar here. You basically have the kind of the Norman pro-Canterbury section, which has become powerful, and then you have the Irish Armagh section, which is just all over the place. But I don't think I'll be mentioning that bull in the video. I will be doing a video on polygamy at some stage, and it's not so much that the Irish are... I know the guy that's doing the TikToks for Crusader Kings 3, he did one recently where he was like, Insular Christianity is it adheres to some of the pagan pre-Christian pagan beliefs of the Irish, which is not true. It's very much that Ireland is cut off from the rest of the world and is going very, very slowly. So when you're having all of these various councils and the Council of Nicaea and all that kind of carry on, the Irish are not adhering to any of this. The Irish are not sending representatives. They don't have a structured church that can be kind of contacted and that it can send people to, which is why the big meme that we had on this channel, the Irish continue following the Jewish Passover, which would have been what was introduced to Ireland in the early 400s. It continues following that method of dating Easter into the very early 700s, when it has fallen out of use in much of the rest of Western Europe, because the Irish are just not getting the information in time. So when you get to the 1100s, it's not so much that the Irish are practicing unchristian beliefs. They're described as barbaric and backwards and pagan and unchristian. The reality is that they're practicing Christian traditions which are maybe a century and a half out of date. But it's used by the English as justification for describing the Irish as backward and barbaric. Is it Courcy or Crucy? The Archbishop of York is indeed the primate of England, and the Archbishop of Canterbury is the primate of all England. So it's a similar, I don't think it's identical, but it's kind of a similar scenario to what they did in Ireland, where you have the Archbishop of Ireland and then the Archbishop of all Ireland, who is the primate of Ireland. And it's basically, I don't know what. It's like kids fighting over something and just an exhausted dad doing something. I don't know what way you'd put it, but giving in to both of them. Or giving out to both of them. But if we've any more stuff, head on over to the Maniacal Link Discord. You can drop them into the history section. So there's a history channel there, which I usually just spam with videos about from the Medieval Irish History channel and Rambling Kern. So he's done some stuff, like I said. They do a lot of stuff on clothing. What would authentic clothing from this time period have looked like? Weapons. Rambling Kern does stick fighting. So Botha. What's it called? Botha. So he does the kind of the traditional Irish stick fighting that would have been used in faction fighting of like the late 1700s. But a lot of those traditions go back a couple of centuries. But he also talks about people will send him like swords for reenactments, and he'll describe them, and he'll talk about them in comparison to real historical Irish swords and stuff like that. And so that's the Rambling Kern. He's on the history section. I've his videos up there, and the Medieval Irish History channel. They put up a wide array of madness covering everything from here to there. Description below on the link has the Discord link. It also has a link to Manded's Steam page, where you can scream abuse at him, shout, make demands. Ask him why. I know most of the questions are like questions about the Nordic faith, the Nordic rite. What's the other one that people are asking a lot of questions about? I can't remember. I know there's the Basque religion, and that's maybe the last question, and Manded might answer that. Is that your Basque religion, or is that the Basque religion that CK3 is after putting in? Because I know you put in a Basque religion at one stage, and or a Basque religion, a Basque faith, and I think CK3 has gone and done the same. So I don't know whether that's your OG one, or whether it's a new one. So check all those out. Faction fighting, junior sea hurling. Absolutely correct. That's pretty much, yeah, there you go. My seat is supreme. No, my seat is supreme. That's pretty much what it was. It was men in frocks fighting about who was the best. So you use their icon. That's a good idea, actually, yeah. And you rework their events for it. I don't know, did you put that in the chat? I might have missed it. Or I might, I'm just fascinated by how is the Pope here? Because I thought this was going to be a massive loss, having to put in a tenet to keep the Pope in place. Like, that you'd have to use this right tenet. You'd have to get rid of one of the two of these to put the Pope in place. But if you can do it without the tenet, then it should be done without the tenet. I don't know. I don't like what CK3 has done with Insular Christianity. I think it's just weird at the moment. It's just weird at the moment. Because you can't go on crusades and the Irish can't become the Pope. You don't need the right to have the Pope. In vanilla, the Conversos faith has the Pope with no right. Really? Why the hell don't they just do that for Ireland? Paradox's reasoning behind a lot of the things it does for Ireland is weird. That's weird. Paradox, stop being weird. No, says Paradox. There you go, right. I'm going to get back. I'm going to... See, I don't think I can eat these. I was going to say I'm going to get back to trying to eat those. I might be on over the weekend on Twitch. There's a link to the Twitch below. I'm usually on Twitch, but I do Chewin the Cud on a Friday, where I just stream, and it's mostly what we had today, me just talking nonsense. So I'm either playing Caves of Cud, or just looking at something like this. They're not generally streams. So it's just if somebody wants to come in and talk about stuff like we did today, or talk about even Irish history, 100th anniversary of the Civil War. With the college course coming to an end, I'd be hoping to be in a position to get back to doing Irish Nation Lives videos. Not too sure. We'll see. But if there's any history topics people want to watch or to talk about, so check out the Twitch below, because I'll be on Twitch maybe over the weekend, possibly Sunday, doing Sea of Thieves. Check out the link to the Discord if you want to talk more about CK3 or Irish history. Check out the link in the description to Mended's Tip Volume 2 mod, which is what we're looking at here. All these new counties, all these new cultures or cultural traits, including wetlanders. And we went through that at the start as to why that's appropriate to be there. Check out Bua. So I typed in Bua's name there. But if you're on YouTube and if you're following around on YouTube, go and check out Bua's channel. I have no way of linking to it. Bua, if you can post a link, you're welcome to do so. But check out Bua's channel. Banner Lord. A bit of CK3, and a bit of Irish GA management sim. So hopefully he'll be getting back into making some videos soon. And the Bearded Tit DM, I don't have a link to that. If you check out any of the... If Painting Poorly is there, he can post a link to it. But if you check out any of my Stellaris videos, the link is in the description to the YouTube page. But we'll be playing tonight on Twitch at 8 o'clock on the Bearded Tit DM's channel. We'll be playing D&D, myself, Painting Poorly, and Irish Sniper, and a few other people. So there you go. Guys, thank you all very much for joining in. Chess is another one that Bua was doing. That's right, absolutely. Thank you all very much for joining in. With the college course coming to an end, I'm hoping to get some more YouTube videos done. I got some more Irish history in CK3 and Irish history in other video games to do. So we'll see how things are over the week. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you all later on. I can never remember where the end screen is.